Hello, welcome to Miniature Realms. My name's Stuart and welcome to a video about what is a load of trash. So joking aside, I needed some palm trees for a couple of projects. I needed a very few to go with my bolt action project for my 8th Army, just a handful to go on my table for that, and then I've got an upcoming bolt action project after that that's going to be Pacific based, and I was looking at options to do lots and lots of palm trees and vegetation like that. So I thought, let's start cheap and see how bad things are, and set myself a bit of a challenge. And as you can see, things are pretty bad. So this is a pile of plastic. I think there's 72 pieces, or there should be. I'm not sure there is, looking at that there. And I think it was £13.99 or something like that, posted from Amazon. So the plan was to see if I could find a way to make them look a little bit less cheap and horrible, and turn them into something worthy of the Wargaming table. So as you can see, there's a lot of trees there, and I counted them, there are 72 pieces, but the quality, as you can imagine, isn't fantastic. And if we kind of go from right to left here, you go from the potentially usable to the eminently awful. Those are really poor, and almost 2D, but you never know. I won't give up on them quite yet, but these ones here definitely have more potential. I'm not quite sure what's going on with the massive red coconuts. I'm assuming they're supposed to be coconuts. Maybe someone could tell me something different, but I suppose when you spend £13.99 on 72 plastic trees, you shouldn't be surprised about red coconuts. Now I think the plan is going to be not to go for a full repaint. It's very bendy plastic, and I imagine it will just flake off. And if there's anyone that knows the kind of paint that would work, then please do put in the comments. I'll have already done what I'm going to do with them by the time that happens, but it might help someone else, or help me if I do something like this in the future. I have sprayed this kind of plastic before on terrain on bases, and if they're on a base it's not so bad because you don't move them too much, but they definitely will crack and come off, I think. So I'm tempted to go in with some inks and things, airbrush in some inks to try and tone it down a bit, and use some matte varnish to try and take away the gloss from the trees themselves, and see if I tone it down enough, would it look okay en masse. And then I've got some bases to try and kind of build them up, and also I'm not just going to stick them on the table like that because they're not going to stand up anyway. So if you imagine a fair few of these on a base, with some rocks and things, and for the desert stuff there'll be a sand mixture. When it comes to the jungle, it'll be some even more thick undergrowth at times. It may well look alright when it's all done, but that's going to be the plan. So at the end of this video, what I want to show you really is what I'd like them to look like for both theatres, really. I'm going to make my desert ones first because it's my bolt action 8th Army project is the one that's ongoing at the moment, but it won't be long afterwards before I do my Pacific theme ones, and I thought I'll do one test base of these trees to see if I can do a different style of basing, and if it works for them. I imagine it will. If it works for one, it will work for both. So I will cut away now, and then you'll watch a bit of time lapse of me probably airbrushing some of these things and scratching my head, and see if I can turn these into something that's usable.
There we are, the bases are just rattle can black, and I'm super gluing the plastic trees onto the base. I'm using activator, so they may be a little bit brittle, but they should be stable enough once the textured paint is painted all over the base. And the next stage, I was just using some clear matte varnish just to take some of the shine off the plastic, and then also help it so that any paint I apply will adhere nicely. And the first colour stage will be some inks or citadel glazes. In this case I'm using the contrast paints, and it's Cygor brown, getting most of the bark and into the leaves a little bit, just faintly, and adding a little green. I think I was using a mixture of camo green and I think it's Militaron green. It doesn't really matter I'm going to be using a mixture of the greens they have available, and I've done both sides. Now, the next stage here is applying Vallejo earth texture. It's the European mud. It's the most sort of neutral that I use, and that will work as a nice base for the jungle, Pacific based palm tree base. Then a mixture of desert sand and grey sand earth textures, both from Vallejo as well, for the desert base. I'll wait for the desert sand to dry, or mostly dry, before applying just a few small sort of spots of the grey sand afterwards. It just gives a bit of natural variation. Then I had a little bit of a quandary about what to apply on the bases. I could have got through loads of sepia wash. I wanted something to go a little bit further, maybe do both colours. So I picked out one of Scale Colours ready mixed oils, oil washes, and this is dark earth. Put it fairly heavily on the base. I have also got some plain white spirit, which I'm thinning them with afterwards. So you'll see there I'm just putting little dots. I'm doing a little bit less on the desert. You may wonder why I'm using a very dark earth, almost black colour on the desert sand. That will be brought up an awful lot through later stages with weathering powders and desert washes. Now the next stage is more Scale Colour ready mixed oil washes. I'm using mid-ground and desert sand, and it's literally just putting little spots on and then thinning with the clear white spirit. And when it dries and evaporates, you'll end up with a nice kind of dusty surface. As you'll see, it's covering an awful lot of the darker effect. Now we move just dry pigments straight on top. First of all, I'm using light senna, and I'm actually brushing that onto the tree bark as well. It's giving it a nice dry texture, and that will stay dusty. I'll blow the excess off. There's also some burnt senna going on the foresty, the Pacific base. And then on the desert base, I'm still using the light senna on the trees themselves, but then I'm going in with some dark yellow ochre and then some green earth, which is almost a white colour, just to create patches. Here we are, just super gluing on some foliage. So this is that kind of foam foliage you can get. I'm going to use the same on both. It works well, creates a different effect overall. And there you can see the jungle base done, and I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's pretty effective for something done so quickly and with such cheap trees. I'm happy with that. Same again with the desert tree stand. A few mixed tufts and things to represent some shrub, especially growing around the trees. And there we are, mission complete on that too. Both worked quite well. That's kind of what I had in mind. I wasn't sure at the beginning whether it would have worked with those plastic trees. Those are the unknown. But I think a mission accomplished. So here are some shots of them on the table, and I think I've achieved what I set out to. It blends in really well with the Geek Villain game mat that I have. This is the El Alamein game mat. Really happy with the way they've come out. The trees, you can tell they're still plastic trees, but by matting them down, spraying with inks, and then adding the weathering powders, I have blown the excess off, but they just look drier and fit into the table more now than they would have done before. So even using the dark oil wash at the beginning that was almost black, it was worked the way I wanted it to. It did give some deep shadow. And oils, when they dry, do look very dry. And then adding the powders afterwards, it's very important to blow the excess off. They're not fully sealed, but very little of it comes off. And they're perfect for scenery. Well, thank you very much for watching. If you are new to the channel, please do check out the other videos. You'll see some bolt action stuff in these images here. I've got a 8th Army bolt action project on the go at the moment. There's some project vlogs and unboxings and things related to that. I've got an upcoming Pacific bolt action project after this one, and there's lots of other things as well. Loads of epic battles, American Civil War from Warlord Games on there. There's a bit of Middle Earth, and there will be many more systems coming. So take a look around. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all soon.